Joining me now live is the Attorney General of California, Rob Bonta. He leads the largest Department of Justice other than the Federal Department of Justice. Mr. Attorney General, welcome back to The Story Is.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
What do you make of what's happening right now in terms of the investigation into your Democratic colleagues?
It's a very dangerous escalation that we're seeing from the Trump administration. It's seemingly an attempt to bully, intimidate, silence leaders who don't do the bidding whenever the Trump administration wants them to. And this is an administration that has no trust on this issue. Trump had an enemies list. He asked U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi to go after them, James Comey, Tish James, and now we're seeing Jerome Powell, and now we're seeing the mayor and the governor. It seems like more of the same. And, you know, I'm always open to the facts, but it looks like political weaponization and intimidation.
I know the Democratic attorneys general are in constant communication with each other. Are you coordinating with Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota, in terms of the way to respond to this?
We are in constant contact. A.G. Ellison and I have talked recently, and we're looking, of course, the whole world is, the whole nation is, at Minneapolis and Minnesota to see what happens next. Could that come to California? A question I must ask myself as a responsible leader of the California DOJ. So, yes, we're in contact.
To that point, could it come to California? Governor Newsom put out a tweet tonight offering his reaction to all this. We want to put that up on the screen. He says Donald Trump's corrupted DOJ will stop at nothing, including ridiculous theories unsupported by facts and pursuing his revenge agenda. No one's safe from his abuse of power. It's sick. I'm curious if you, as the Attorney General of California, do you go to bed at night wondering, will I wake up and be indicted or investigated tomorrow by the Trump DOJ? Is that something you're actively thinking about?
I always thought that that was possible based on the way this administration is abusing power, weaponizing the U.S. DOJ, really a disgusting abuse of the use of its criminal prosecution powers. It is political persecution, not criminal prosecution, and they go after their enemies. If you lead a blue state, if you're from a blue city, it's red and blue. It's trying to own the libs and get the Dems, and that's it. It's not based on facts and law like it's supposed to be. It's not prosecuting without fear or favor and going where the law and the facts take you.
So the president has been talking recently about something called the Insurrection Act, saying that he may invoke that in Minneapolis. We want to put up on the screen a bit of an explainer for folks in terms of what the Insurrection Act is. This allows the president to deploy the military inside the U.S. and use the military against Americans to do certain forms of law enforcement, which they're usually prohibited from doing. This was sort of started back in 1792. It's been invoked 30 times in U.S. history. I'm curious, are you actively preparing for that to happen? Is that something that you are thinking about potentially happening here? And what is the plan if the Insurrection Act is invoked?
We are prepared for this. We've been thinking about this possibility since before Trump was elected, after he was elected, before he was inaugurated, and every day since. We thought when he deployed a National Guard and Marines to L.A., that might be based on the Insurrection Act. It ended up it was based on another cited authority that we was wrongly relied on, and we won. And after 6 months of fighting tooth and nail, but yes, we're prepared. The key is right in the title of the Insurrection Act. There needs to be an insurrection. And there is nothing coming close to an insurrection in Minnesota, in California. But that doesn't mean that Trump won't try to invoke it because he wants the powers that it gives him. But it will be based on a lie. It will not have a factual foundation for invoking the Insurrection Act. And if it isn't invoked, we are ready now to go to court within minutes to file and get a court order blocking the improper, illegal invocation of the Insurrection Act.
But ultimately, that could be something that goes to the Supreme Court, and the question on that would be how quickly does a court act? Because that sort of thing, you would need to move fast, and sometimes courts don't always move fast. Another thing that made headlines today while we have you involves X, formerly known as Twitter, and their AI software called Grok.
Yep.
And that, it's been interesting. People have been using Grok and asking it to remove the clothes of certain people in pictures. So essentially, it's digitally undressing you against your own permission. You're now investigating this. What can you do as a California DOJ on this front?
We can stop these practices. We announced an investigation earlier this week. Today, we sent a cease and desist letter saying that these practices, to the extent they're illegal, must end immediately, and we're asking for confirmation by the end of the day. Tuesday, the fact that Grok can non-consensually create sexually explicit material of kids and of women that leads to harassment and obviously is improper and dangerous is wrong, and it needs to end. And Elon Musk and XAI need to end it immediately.
And lastly, the last time you were here, you were thinking about running for California governor. You announced that you were not running for California governor. The breaking political news tonight was that Rick Caruso announced he's also not running for California governor. You surprised by that?
No. Interesting. In the end, no.
Yeah. Why is it that you're not running? Senator Alex Padilla's not running. Vice President Kamala Harris isn't running. You're the Attorney General of the state. This is the biggest job in the biggest state in the union.
Yeah.
Why does nobody want to do it? I mean, what is that when clearly there's a lot of people that are running, but why not go for this job when clearly the polls show there's an opening to potentially win this race?
Yeah, no, great question. I think it's an individual decision for each person. And I think Kamala Harris, if she runs for anything, will run for president again, having run and come very, very close to being president. Alex Padilla has a great job as a U.S. Senator. I have a great job as Attorney General of the state of California, doing things that governors can't do, only I can do to protect and defend rights and freedoms and funding. So Mr. Caruso had to make a personal decision. Obviously, he was very thoughtful about it. He came to his own conclusion. I respect that. And I respect anyone who wants to serve and consider running. And those who aren't running and don't have a title, they have a role to play, too, to make our state better. And I believe Mr. Caruso will be in that lane.
Rob Bonta, the incumbent Attorney General of California, running for re-election. Thanks for coming in. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me,
Have
Alex.
a nice weekend.
Always